Well, folks, good day to you one and all, and welcome to Season 3, Round number 7, Sports and GT Masters iRacing, your favorite spot on a Wednesday night. As always, with me, the voice of Western Province Motorsport, Frankie Innes. Frankie, good evening to you.
Good evening, Gary, and good evening, Gavin, and good evening, everybody out there in the world of iRacing. And today we come to you from the Circuit of the Americas in Austin in Texas. The track is 5.5 kilometers long, anti-clockwise, and it is 300 meters wide. It is currently the home of the FIA US Grand Prix, MotoGP. It also hosts the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, the NASCAR Infinity Series, and the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, amongst others. It used to host one of the rounds of the FIA World Rallycross Championship, including the American Rallycross Championship as well. But today it is the GT3 cars in the hands of all the sports and GT Master drivers, as we currently watch that man, Mr. Sports and GT Master himself, Mike Verrier, from the Western Cape, all the way from Neisner, out there in his 8-call 247. It looks like it's a BMW. Yes, it is a Beamer that Mike is in that famous number 33. 2 minutes and 15 seconds have gone from the 10-minute qualifying stint as Mike Verrier makes his way around the final corner. And let's see, will Mike be the first man to put a time on the scoreboard?
Well, probably will be one of the first once they've gone around and done one warm-up lap, sighting lap as such. Then they start getting listed up onto the qualifying board. But sure, what a star-studded team we've got out there, and as always, that man is going to be amongst the front runners.
Yeah, Mr. Graham Stephen out there. He'll be out in the McLaren. I think it's the only McLaren that I saw out on track when they were doing their official practice early on. So Graham Stephen in the McLaren in that famous orange and blue color. And that is a very, very lovely motor car. That McLaren, look at the flames that comes out the back of the exhaust of that number 12 McLaren of Graham Stephen. 3 minutes and 20 seconds gone out of the 10-minute qualifying stint. And it's more than just Mike Verrier and Graham Stephen out on track. There's a lot of other drivers out there as well. And pretty soon, after they've done their out lap, they will then automatically be on their flying lap. And then we will see the qualifying times come through.
Well, how's that for a new entrant? Luke Lucchese. And without giving anything away, we noticed him in the upper echelons of the timing screen with the practice session. Well, it's normally around about 2 minutes 3, 2 minutes 4 seconds a lap, which means that the guys that went out first out onto the circuit in about 10-15 seconds from now, you'll see the lap times start to come up on the side of the screen. Once you've been out of the pits, you've gone once around the circuit, you complete a lap around the circuit, and then your flying lap, your details start coming up on the left hand side of the screen. So there we go, there the names start coming up. The ones you see at the top of the time next to them, that is the people that have already completed a lap around the circuit, a flying lap. And as we said, welcome to Western Province Masters Sports and GT Luke Lucchese, and he opens up with a provisional pole position.
Yeah, he was 2 minutes and 3 seconds. Luke Lucchese out there, man. I'll tell you what, this is giving my age away. When I started commentating way back in March, April of 1996, being involved since 1994, Luke Lucchese was out at the Western Province karting section racing 60cc GP junior karts, and from there he moved on to the 100 stocks and even 100 supers at one stage of the game. Had a stint in main circuit clubmans, and then Luke just all of a sudden disappeared from the map. But it's good to see him back out on track. So far he is the quickest man out there. François Hubert out there on track as well in the Lamborghini, the number 304 Lamborghini. There is Davi Hubert disappearing under the Circuit of the Americas bridge, as Davi Hubert makes his way around. He's currently there in that third position. So Davy Hubert in the Ferrari. So Luc Lecchesi, Francois Hubert and Davy Hubert. So far it is 3 Ferraris that are alive. 3 Lamborghinis, I do apologize, that are provisional first, second and third so far.
Well, there we go. Andre Steenkamp on a 205.2, a 205.8 at this stage. The fight for Johannes van der Merwe. That's his best provisional qualifying so far since he joined the series. Nice to see Mike Verrier in the top 10 at 206.6 so far. Also on a 0.6, his teammate for the last 6-hour race is Sean McCarthy. Graham Stephen, I'm pretty sure that he's going to put in a quicker time than that, as Graham Stephen, there he comes down the hill and takes that last left-hand corner right onto the curve zone. Let's see, at 206.8, believe you me, he will definitely be faster than that unless he made some other error as he goes down, and he puts in a 206.1. That bumps him a long way further up. Peter van der Spey, Captain Pete, welcome to the Circuit of the Americas at 206 dead centers, and he's looking pretty good. 8th overall so far.
Yeah, Peter van der Spey, currently P8 in BMW car number 9, making his way around. Let's see if Captain Pete can get higher than that. While he was in 8th, he's been bumped down to a 9th position. Mike Verrier is in the A-Call 24/7 BMW with a 206.605. Currently he is there in that 10th position with his BMW. Sean McCarthy, well, that can only be a Ferrari, and that is the first Ferrari, and it's not in the top 10 so far. Sean with a 206.668, currently sitting there in 11th position. Let's see if he can better that. There's Willem Pina in the Castrol BMW. Willem in the top dozen, 2 positions out the top 12 with a 206.744. Let's see if Willem Pina can bring that Castrol BMW into the top 10. Then Robbie Teings out there in that 13th position. Robbie Teings also in a BMW. Robbie with a 207.042. He's the first of the drivers that's there in the 207. Charles Hubert in the number 10 Ferrari, sitting a lovely color scheme there on that Charles Hubert. That's not a Ferrari, that's a Lamborghini. Timothy Stanton, the first of the AMG Mercedes-Benz car. Listen to the grunt of that Merc of Timothy Stanton with a 207.412.
Steve McCarthy's gone back into the pit lane. We'll see if he is going to come out again. Wayne Camage in the 222. He's coming through that last section now. Let's stay with Wayne and let's see what he can do. Probably his second lap, 8 minutes 52, so we're coming near to the end of the qualifying session. There you see a lot of quicker times coming through there, and Wayne Camage was on a 206.4, a 206.495 is what he's put together right now. So there's Mike in the pits. Willem is out of it as well. Robbie Teens, a lot of the guys having finished off their fastest laps already. Charles Hubert looks like he's got himself maybe he's going to make it to the line in time. Nope, I don't think so. He's slowing down. He's finished his time. For those of you that are not accustomed to watching this form of motorsport, computer gives you 2 laps in that 10-minute period, and once the well, depending on the settings which has been put in by Sandro Bakari, Mike Verrier, or whoever is loading the system for us, and once that gets to 10 minutes, if you have not got a lap time like clean lap like Peter Hubert, Sandro Bakari and Renier Hubert, you are going to be coming off the tail end of the grid. 27 cars in total. Our 10-minute qualifying window has just come to an end.
Right, so Sandro Bakari, Peter Hubert and them have not posted a time, and let's see if they're going to be starting off the back of the pack. Haha, look at that front row of the grid. Luc Lecchesi and Johan Fourie. Does it get any better than that? These 2 guys, believe it or not, Gary, raced karts against each other at the Western Province karting section, and they lock out the front row of the grid with Francois Hubert and Willem Botha in that second row. Second, third and fourth, they are 3 of the guys that are heavily involved in the club, or should I say the series championship fight.
Yeah, Willem Botha, Francois Joubert on the second row of the grid, Andre Steenkamp, David Joubert, Sois Joubert, Johannes van der Meyer, a brilliant qualifier there by him. Graham Stephen down in ninth. Well, it's a long way down for him. It's a nice way up for Peter van der Spy.
Yeah, Sean McCarthy and Wayne Camage round off the first 6 rows of the grid.
As we move along with Sean McCarthy, Wayne Camage, let's see if we can have a look just a little bit further down. It's Mike Verrier and Willem Pina with Herman Lazarus and Robbie Teens rounding out the top 16.
Yeah, and then Charles Joubert and Timothy Stanton, row 10, Stephen McCarthy and Colbert, row 11.
Not at all. So let's see what happens with that one.
"14 rows on the grid, 27 race cars. Man, it's going to be absolutely amazing. The bulk of these cars are made up from Lamborghinis, and as Gavin Fleming was telling us earlier on, the Lambo seems to be the quicker of all these cars, but it could just be a gas guzzler. And talking about gas guzzler, we're not quite sure from a commentator's point of view this time what percentage of fuel these GT3 sports cars are going to have.
Well, yeah, we are not aware of what the fuel consumption and all the amount of fuel that's been put in to the cars. That information was not forwarded to us, so it's going to be interesting. We will learn with you as we go what is the situation with the fuel. Are they going to fuel up or not? That we're going to find out. Everybody's been asked to hold it nice and smooth until they exit turn number 1. The guy that's on pole position being Luke easy. When he exits turn number 1, it'll be all systems go. I did say please do not bunch up the back, let's spread it out a little bit and let's try and get everybody through as they cruise through. What a beautiful sight that. Let's have a look at that from upstairs. I think it'll be, oh, there we go. That's what it looks like from upstairs. 27 cars, round number 7, season 3, Western Province Sports and GT Racing Master Series. This one's going to be good.
Right, here we go. It's going to be 50 minutes of absolute mayhem out. And if you look, first, third, fourth and fifth are all Lamborghinis, and they are split by the Audi of Johan Fourie in that second place. Right, coming out the last corner, they're allowed to get the hammers down now, and away goes Luke Lucchesi as they race uphill. You cannot see it from here, but the projectile of that uphill into turn number 1 is extremely high. Through turn 1 they go now. Johan Fourie sitting there in that second position. Look at Francois Joubert. Francois Joubert is busy moving along. Sois Joubert in the Oreo Lamborghini sitting in there. Right behind him is a Graham Stephen as we sit there with a man in 7th position in the number 22 Lamborghini. That is a Francois Joubert making their way through that winding section of Circuit of the Americas just outside of Austin, Texas, USA. Into that left-hander they go. They'll go into a very, very tight left-hand at the end of this relatively long straight with a slight kink in it, and then they will barrel down that long back straight. Willem Pina sitting out there in that Castrol BMW in 13th position, but Johan Fourie in the Monster Energy Audi in that second position as they make their way down that long straight, heading back towards the final corner, but they've still got some way to go before they get there.
Yeah, look at that, a long stream of cars, and the most brilliant part of this is that there's not been a single off-track. Let's hope that that's not going to be a commentator's curse. Not a single off-track that has been registered on the computer so far. Let's have a look at it from the front. Luke Lucchesi, the man that is leading them out, and well, he was the fastest qualifier. Welcome to Sports and GTI Racing Masters. Johan Fourie, ex-champion, right in there. Willem Botha doing a brilliant job in that third position. Francois Joubert in the normal black and white colors. That's the color scheme that he's favoured for a long time, and no matter what car it is, he always makes sure that is his two colours, and you can pick him out very, very easily. In there behind him, another one of the Jabers, that is Davy Jaber, probably one of the most well-known of the Jaber family, Suez Jaber, and then surprisingly, here comes Graham Stephen.
Yeah.
Graham Stephen's battling.
Yeah, Graham Stephen is battling, and Stephen's got Johannes van der Merwe and Peter van der Spey, and van der Spey and van der Merwe side by side. Down the home straight they go, race it uphill into that sharp left-hander, that's turn number 1. And that McLaren of Graham Stephen is spitting flames out there at van der Merwe, van der Spey. Cammy and Sean McCarthy also involved in that fight. There is Sway Schubert, and if you look at Sway Schubert's car, he's got the AlphaTauri colours on that Sway Schubert car as this whole field makes their way through. Johannes van der Merwe, Peter van der Spey, cars losing the circuit. That looked like Wayne Camage that lost the track there just ahead of him. Here we see the Castrol car of Willem Pinaar. That's the BMW of Willem. Willem sitting out there in P11 just outside of the top 10.
Well, let's go back to the front end of the field. It's a Luke Easy that's leading them out. There has been a couple of off tracks, but we will wait for the first couple of laps to play itself out before we go back to that. Luke Easy doing a brilliant job. Look at that. Johan Ferry in that second position. There's Willem Botha. That's the red and black. Right in there behind him is Francois Joubert. Next man coming through, Davy Joubert. A little bit further down the track, that is Swayze Joubert. Here comes Graham Stephen. He had them rack-packed and stacked behind him. Now he's got a bit of a space between himself, Johannes van der Merwe, Peter van der Spey, Sean McCarthy. That's that leading group of cars that's coming through there behind him.
Well, I tell you what, just behind McCarthy is Willem Pinaar, but we hop aboard with that Ferrari of Sean McCarthy into that double left-hander. McCarthy goes. He's 9/10 of a second behind Captain Pete, Peter van der Spey in the BMW that sits out there just ahead of him as they make their way through this tricky circuit of the Americas. Not a very easy track to drive. It is really a driver's circuit. You've got to work pretty damn hard on this racetrack. And I know that Cyril Ginsburg once early on in the week was saying he's out of this one. There's a car in trouble on the left-hand side. We'll pick up with that is now as Luke Lucchesi makes his way around and in the Lamborghini, and he's 1.7. Oh, that's Francois. That is Francois Joubert in the AlphaTauri colored Lamborghini.
Well, it's still all about that man, Luke Lucchesi, Johan Ferry right in there behind him. And, well, he's not that close behind him. Neither is Willem Botha. He's stretching them out. Davy Joubert finding himself a little bit further back. Swayze Joubert a little bit further back. Graham Stephen now got himself a bit of space between himself and Johannes van der Merwe. Brilliant drive by Johannes van der Merwe. Peter van der Spey, Sean McCarthy is in that 9th position. And then there comes Willem Pinaar. That is your top 10. Robbie Teens, the comeback kid, is not completely out of it yet. It's in the earlier stages. There's Robbie Teens. Beautiful looking spray job on that motor car. And he's got a bit of space between himself and the man from the 8 ball 24/7. And that is Dr. Mike Verrier, the man that brought the whole series together. Colbert not that far behind him. A very distinctive color scheme there for Andrew Colbert. The second of the McCarthys in the Sujin Properties blue and white car coming through there behind him. That is Stephen McCarthy. Stephen's got a bit of space behind him at this stage of the fight. He's got a bit of a gap, a 5-second gap in fact, back to the Audi of Gerald Merget. And that's what 5 seconds looks like. And look at that group of cars coming through behind him. Colin Plitt, Leonardo Beccari, and they make contact. And that's under braking markers, and that's going to put a lot of damage on that motor car.
Yeah, a lot of damage out there. I think it might be Colin Plitt that's dropping down the leaderboard. Yes, it is. That's a Colin Plitt Audi that is now dropping down that leaderboard. He is going to drop all the way down into 21st position. That's not what Colin Plitt needed, and he's just under a second behind Charles Joubert that is in there behind him. And then Andre Steenkamp is also in that group as well. However, Sean McCarthy in that 9th position. McCarthy's got Willem Pinaar and Robbie Teens in there behind him as they go down the home straight, making their way up the hill into turn number 1. There's a dive for position. There's a dive for position, and there is contact. That was Davy Joubert and Peter van der Spey. Dawie Joubert and Peter van der Spey. There's contact there. Van der Spey is now in there and he's ahead of Dawie Joubert, and right on the case of Dawie Joubert is Sean McCarthy. Right behind him Willem Pina, and right behind Willem Pina is Robbie Teens. So it's chopping and changing out here as McCarthy is now 0.3 of a second just behind Dawie Joubert, who lost that place earlier on to Peter van der Spey.
A little bit further back, Stephen McCarthy also in a very tight battle there in behind that very distinctive colours of Andrew Colbert as they go over the hill. You can see the elevation that they have there. Stephen McCarthy right on the tail end, that's 0.2 of a second. Robbie Teens, he must have a brilliant view through the front window. Robbie Teens got that whole pack of cars in front of him.
Yeah, Robbie Teens has got them all in front of him. He's watching this whole train go under this Circuit of the America bridge as we ride on board with Robbie Teens in that BMW. He looks at Willem Pina in the other BMW ahead of him. So Pina, Teens and Verrier, 10, 11 and 12, but he's still ride aboard with Teens. They're all out there in BMWs. That is what it looks like from Robbie Teens' car. We have a replay, and one of the drivers getting it all wrong, or there was a track limits. No, the tail of the Lamborghini stepping out there.
I think that's Andrew Colbert. Yep, I think that was actually Andrew Colbert that we saw there, and there's somebody else that's just gone off the track as well. There was Herman Lazarus that just went off the circuit, but finds it pretty decently again. Let's go back to the front end of the field. Look at that, pulling away at the front.
Well, I tell you what, none of these drivers expected to see Mr. Luc Lucchesi come out here in that Lamborghini and dissect the field. He's almost 3.5 seconds ahead of Johan Fourie in second place. It's only 1.2 seconds ahead of Willem Pina in that third position. So Lamborghini first and third. They are split by Fourie's Audi in that second position. Suisse Joubert sits out there in that fourth place. Suisse Joubert, but he's 10 seconds, almost 11 seconds behind that man you're looking at there, Willem Botha, that is in that third position, chasing down the Audi R8 of Johan Fourie, 1.3 seconds ahead of him in second position.
A little bit further back, Suisse Joubert, and he's got 11 seconds. So, Frankie, the front three, Luc Lucchesi, Johan Fourie, and Willem Botha, pretty much 4.6 seconds between them, but taking 11 seconds out of the best of the rest. But we got to go back to Robbie Teens. Look at that. Line astern all the way forward from Robbie Teens, Willem Pina, Sean McCarthy, Dawie Joubert, Peter van der Spey, that's got them racked, packed and stacked behind him. Yeah,
Robbie sits out there in that 11th position. He's 2.4 seconds ahead of Mike Verrier, but Robbie's got them all packed in front of him. He's keeping an eye on this lot. That is a Peter van der Spey. He's got Dawie Joubert right there behind him, followed there by Sean McCarthy. Behind McCarthy, it's Pinard and Teens. Remember earlier on that Van der Spey made the move there on Dawie Joubert and took that 7th position away from him. So Captain Pete, he is only 0.5 of a second behind the man in front of him in P6, Johannes van der Merwe, as we look at the nose cam view there of the Van der Spey BMW.
Well, they've got them racked, packed and stacked. Look at that, Peter van der Spey in there behind Johannes van der Merwe. And they're all putting up, look at that, 2061, 2065, 2066, 2063. They're all lapping pretty much at the same time. You would tend to think that this, given the 30-meter wide circuit, in most places, in fact just about the whole circuit, that it would be easy to pass. It doesn't seem like it whatsoever. It looks like it's a pretty difficult track to get through.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's not easy at all. And that's the fight for P6. And it goes all the way from P6 down to P12, which is Mike Verrier. So they are fighting it out for that 6th position at this point in time, with 11 minutes and 30 seconds done on the clock in this 50-minute race. Herman Lazarus, that's a replay of Herman. Let's have a look, see what happened here to the man in car 25. I think he's going to overdo it, yes. Herman Lazarus there in the Audi, going into that left-hander slightly too hot. Wayne Camage, have a look here what happened to Camage. The tail of the motor car just steps out there on Camage, but brings it back onto track all in one piece.
Well, he held it pretty decently. Let's be honest, it wasn't a bad one whatsoever. What is going to be the strategies up front? We have no idea. Sean McCarthy sitting in that pack of motor cars. Can he make a move from there? It's not going to be easy. It doesn't appear to be an easy come, easy go as you work your way through the pack. There you can see the visual gap between Sean McCarthy and Darby Hubert going just a little bit further forward from there. Look at that. That's how close they are, using the whole circuit.
Well, that is Darby Hubert, and right behind him is Sean McCarthy. There is nothing. There's about 7/10, make it just under a second between Darby and Sean as they make their way down the home straight, up that hill into turn number 1. And Van der Merwe is being attacked. Van der Merwe is being attacked there by Van der Spy. Van der Merwe and Van der Spy. Van der Spy had a look way off track. There goes Darby Hubert. Darby Hubert has a look up on the inside. Peter Van der Spy has got the line covered. So the Lamborghini is chasing down the BMW. This is allowing Van der Merwe to get away. So it's Van der Merwe, Van der Spy. Right behind him, it's Darby Hubert. Followed there by Sean McCarthy. Behind McCarthy, it's Willem Pinaar and Robbie Teens, followed by Mike Verrier. But this is the man in 7th position. That's the BMW of Van der Spy, and he's chasing down the other BMW in P6 of Johannes Van der Merwe.
Can you believe it? Look, easy, just up, dusting and disappearing at the front end of the field. An amazing, amazing drive. Driving 4.5 seconds away from that man, Johan Ferry, multiple on-track champion throughout South African circuits, throughout numerous different classes of racing, a iRacing ace, a radio-controlled ace as well, that does very well in the national championships. And even he doesn't have an answer right now for Luke Kizzy. Willem Botha not been dusted whatsoever, within 2.5 seconds of Johan Ferry in a top 3 situation. No pressure from behind. 13 seconds further back, Sway Hubert. And, well, he's doing very well. He's got the better part of 23 cars behind him as Sway Hubert. But to be able to equal the pace of the boys up front at this stage doesn't look like it's going to happen. Talk about the pace of the guys up front. This man is normally with them.
Yeah, 2.1 seconds behind Sway Hubert is Graham Stephen in the McLaren, sitting out there in P5. And he in turn is 5.7, nearly 6 seconds ahead of Johannes Van der Merwe. That's there in that 6th position. But Van der Merwe's got them racked and stacked and packed in there behind him as we watch Graham Stephen in that orange and blue McLaren make his way around. And here comes the Martini Racing BMW of Johannes Van der Merwe in P6. He's got Peter Van der Spy right behind him. Darby Hubert is in there behind Van der Spy. Behind him is Sean McCarthy going off the circuit. There is Darby Hubert. Then it's Sean McCarthy, followed there by Willem Pinaar. Behind Pinaar is Robbie Teens, followed by Mike Verrier. That's the top 12. And I'll tell you this for nothing, people. There is literally tenths of a second between the fight between Van der Merwe in P6 all the way down to Teens in P11.
Sean McCarthy says to Darby Hubert, here I come onto the brake bar, because he's on the wrong line now for the exit of the corner, and that gets up one position, Sean McCarthy and Willem Pinaar, as they swap positions there. If you go in deep and turn it in late, you get good drive coming out of the corner, but if you go for the passing maneuver up on the inside, you're on the completely wrong line coming out, and you can't get onto the gas quickly, and hence changing of positions. What a lovely move from inside that motor car. Sean McCarthy is watching Willem and Darby go one-on-one, corner for corner, as he almost made contact with the Castro car.
Woohoo! I tell you what, this is hectic stuff, and that's the fight up there for that 8th position. We sit on board the Ferrari of Sean McCarthy, watching the BMW of Pinaar go after the McLaren of Davy Hubert. We have a look at that front right-hand side suspension of the Sugin 44 Ferrari of Mr. Sean McCarthy there
Slight
in that
cut.
10th position.
Slight cut
Yeah.
going through that corner. Desperation as he tries to hold on to them. Let's see if there's any kind of slipstream effect here. He didn't come out of the corner very well, did Sean McCarthy, and you can see it if you look on the left-hand side, holding 0.8 of a second, not managing to close up until they have the concertina effect under the brakes.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is going to be awesome stuff out there. 17 minutes done. We are about 2.5 minutes away from halfway, or well, from 18 minutes. Francois Hubert in the AlphaTauri coloured Lamborghini gets a tail stepping out there into that light right-hander. AlphaTauri, for those people that don't know, is the clothing company of Red Bull.
Let's go back to the front end of the field, and that wheel that you see there is being directed by Luke Lucchese. And well, he's doing a brilliant job, there's no doubt about it. Luke Lucchese, 5 seconds still ahead of second place. Johan Ferry, you'll pick him up there in the background. There is Johan Ferry, and still holding sway, Willem Botha. Willem's having a very good race.
Yeah, he's just under 3 seconds behind Johan Ferry, keeping an eye there on Ferry and Lucchese out there ahead of him. So, and they are 15, 16 seconds ahead of this fight going on for that 4th position. That's Sway Hubert, but this is a brilliant one. This is Sean McCarthy, and McCarthy's got his nose ahead there of Robbie Teens, and he's going after Willem Pienaar. So it is Pienaar, McCarthy and Teens. That's just 3 cars you see in your screen there. Just behind them you saw Dr. Mike Verrier. He'll come into the left-hander now. That's Mike going into that left-hander as Sean McCarthy is hunting down Willem Pienaar. 0.4 of a second between himself and Pienaar. So Sean McCarthy in the Ferrari is hunting down the Castrol BMW of Pienaar. He's got missile lock on him as they go into that final corner of the Circuit of the Americas. On Pienaar gets a tailbag in. That's going to cause him to lose speed. There we go a bit further up, and Van der Merwe has been attacked there by Davy Hubert, and Davy Hubert goes through there on Johannes van der Merwe.
Well, Van der Merwe did very, very well to hold on to that position for so long. Let's go back to that side-by-side battle. Look at the discipline amongst these drivers. Mike Verrier was saying, guys, we need you to have at least a Class B license if you want to carry on with the series. Bit of off-track there. But look at that. Slows down, lets the guys go through, recovers the circuit. And for that reason, Mike Verrier, who originally said Class B or Class A or cheers and goodbye, go and practice, eventually turned around and said, you know what, the guys are becoming very respectful for one another. The racing's getting very clean. I don't believe that it's necessary to have that kind of situation, and removed that request from the Facebook page, which we believe is pretty fantastic. Frankie, we're going now into 20 minutes and 14 seconds. No pit stops so far. The problem is we don't know what the pit strategies are, because we don't know what the fuel loads are.
We do not know. That car we saw go off early on, that was the Willem Pienaar Castrol BMW, but we are had a quick look there at Luke Lucchese. Here is Davy Hubert, and he's all over the back of Van der Spy. Davy Hubert and Peter Van der Spy. Van der Spy just ahead there of Davy Hubert as they make their way into this twiddly bits of Circuit of the Americas. He went a bit high there, did Davy Hubert. Sean McCarthy right behind McCarthy now is Robbie Teens, who's now being caught there once again by Willem Pienaar. Remember, Pienaar got it all wrong early on. He ran off the circuit behind them. You just see in view there the 12th place man, that's Mike Verrier, as Willem Pienaar in that Castrol BMW. He wants to get that position back there from Robbie Teens that he lost when he went wide, and ahead of both of them is the Sugin machine out there of Sean McCarthy.
A little bit further down, Andre Steenkamp, 16th position, being chased down there by René Hubert. The Audi's been closing on him. We've been watching the gap. He's actually closed up reasonably quickly onto the back of Andre Steenkamp. Steenkamp a long way down as opposed to where you would expect to see him. But then again, it is open setup. The guys have done quite a bit of practice for the race on Sunday with the open setups, and tonight they're running high downforce. Looks like, I think that was Gerald Majay, I think that went off there. That's the blue and orange. And the first of the cars going into the pit lane, and that in fact is Steenkamp that has gone into the pits. So tonight it's going to be all about using the high downforce settings, and then it's going to be an open setup for the 6 hour that we're going to be running on Sunday.
Well, Sway Schubert sitting out there in that fourth position, being chased down there by Graham Stephen in P5. Only 2 seconds between Schubert and Stephen. And it's a lonely drive there for Sway Schubert, because he's 17, 18 seconds behind Willem Boot on that third position. So unless something goes wrong with Lucchesi, Fourie and Botha, Sway's best chance at this point in time is a P4. But right behind him is the lone soul McLaren out there of 5th place man Graham Stephen. But here comes Dawie Hubert. He is just under 10 seconds behind Graham Stephen, and he's been cutting and carving his way through the field. He is now being chased down by the BMW of Peter van der Spey. Peter van der Spey has got Van der Merwe, Johannes van der Merwe in there behind him in that Martini Racing BMW, and on his case is Sean McCarthy. Peter van der Spey trying to get away from the two of them and go after Dawie Hubert, but remember, you lost that position too, Dawie Hubert. Here comes Johannes van der Merwe, right behind van der Merwe, the Ferrari of Sean McCarthy. Right behind him you see Robbie Teens. Robbie Teens is right on his case there, and Teens is getting away from Willem Pinaar that lost that place to him early on, and Willem has made no indent there on the Robbie Teens car, as Sean McCarthy trying to catch up to the Martini Racing BMW of Johannes van der Merwe.
Johannes definitely on his best race to date with Westbound Sports and GTI Racing Masters Series. Have a look at that green list on the left hand side. Fastest lap times per vehicle out there. The only person to break the 204 is in fact Luke Lucchesi. 204.3 for Johan, and Willem at 204.7, and everybody else outside of that. So no doubt that the front three on fixed setup, high downforce, are the guys to be caught. Once again, we are still wondering what's going to be happening with the pit strategies, as we do not know how much fuel are in these motor cars.
Right, this is a look at Stephen McCarthy, a replay of Steve. That's going up the hill into turn number 1. Does it step out on him? Yes, it does. So, but not too bad. He catches the car, does Stephen McCarthy, and keeps on going again. Right, so Sean McCarthy still right on the case there of Johannes van der Merwe. You're waiting for those pit stops to come. Van der Merwe sitting out there in P8, McCarthy sitting out there in P9. Ahead of them you can see Captain Peter van der Spey. They are now being chased there by Robbie Teens. That's still got his nose ahead there of Willem Pinaar. There's Teens and there's Pinaar coming out of that final left-hander. You just saw a glimpse there of Mike Verrier come through as well, as Van der Merwe is now under serious pressure. He is under immense pressure there from the Ferrari of McCarthy. Here's a tenth of a second. Surely this must be the move from McCarthy. Yes, the move is made there on the final corner, should I say, in the final corner, by the Ferrari of McCarthy on the BMW of Van der Merwe.
Very neatly done by both of them. Will he be able to fight back from there? I wouldn't be surprised if it's not all said and done and dusted. If you look at the lap times between them, there's nothing much in it. It was purely a case of climbing in there and doing what you need to do to apply the pressure, force that inside line, and then run from there. I wouldn't be surprised if a return favour exactly the same is done and they swap positions from there. Johannes van der Merwe still inside of the top 10.
Yeah, but Van der Merwe is being caught there by Robbie Teens. Robbie Teens is right on the case there of Johannes van der Merwe. So Van der Merwe might, as Gary said, want to repay the favour, but he needs to defend that position of the man that Gary refers to as the comeback kid, Mr. Robbie Teens. Will Robbie make a move? Will Robbie make a move on the inside? Yes, he does. Robbie Teens makes the move there on the inside of Van der Merwe. And I said he needed to defend that position against Teens. He could not defend that position against Teens. He's lost that place to Robbie Teens, and look who's in there behind him. The Castrol BMW of Willem Pina is also on a roll now. Let's see if he closes up onto the back end of Van der Merwe. But Van der Merwe in turn is trying to catch up onto the back end of Teens as your race leader, Luke Lucchese, makes his way into pit lane. Gary and Willem Botha coming in there behind him.
Yep, where's Swayze Joubert? There comes Swayze Joubert. Now remember, he's 20 seconds further back. And is he going to go into the pit lane? No, he doesn't. He goes straight past. What does Graham Stephen do? Graham Stephen goes straight past. What does Dawie Joubert do? Nope, it's only those two that have peeled off into the pits. So it's Johan Fourie that's gone to the front. It's Luke Lucchese that is there in the pit lane. There he goes out of the pit lane now. Is he going to drop down behind the likes of Willem Botha there in the pit? So Dawie Joubert would be the next one that comes through. Nope, he stays ahead by 3 seconds of Dawie Joubert. So pretty interesting stuff. Let's have a look at the gains and losses at this stage of the fight. Johan Fourie from second to the front row of the grid. But now remember, he is 1 pit stop behind Swayze Joubert, 5 positions up, but also not having made the pit stop. Graham Stevens 6 up, also not having made the pit stop, which means now Luke Lucchese and Dawie Joubert, the two of them having made their pit stops, 3 positions down for Luke Lucchese, but he will probably recover that without too much difficulty once the front 3 end up going to take their pit stops.
Well, I'll tell you what, judging by the time that they went in at about 25, 26 minutes, that would tell me more or less
Halfway.
that they had a 50% fuel capacity on these race cars, so that gave that let the cat out the bag. So with 50% race fuel, they went in more or less just on or just over halfway. So now Johan Fourie is going to have to pedal if he wants to go in first and come out in first position. Neil Joubert is also out there, and who is just ahead of him? That is Pienaar. That is Willem Pienaar in the Castrol car, just ahead of the 27 Audi of Neil Joubert, and Joubert has gone up 13 positions and he's 4/10 of a second behind Pienaar that sits there in the 12th position.
So let's have a look from the front end of the field, and it's going to be Johan Fourie that has gone into the pit lane. Is it? Yes, Johan's into the pits. Where is Swayze Joubert?
Swayze is in pit lane.
He's on his way in.
And
Where's
Graham
Graham
Stephen?
Stephen? He's on his way in. Where's Luke Lucchese? Good night, nurse. Here we go. He goes straight past on the outside.
Right, thank you for my P1, says Luke Lucchese as he works his way up the hill into turn number 1. 30 minutes almost gone. That means that Willem Pienaar, is Willem Pienaar going to move up
Botha.
into that, Botha, I do apologize, Botha, into that second position? Yes, he does.
But
Botha,
also not having made a pit stop. No, he has.
No, he has.
He has.
And it looks like Fourie has hung on to that second position.
Well, that means that Luke Lucchese, Johan Fourie, and Willem Botha, which means Mike Verrier has jumped up the grid pretty hectically. But remember, this man has still got to do a stop. One of half of the field that has seen their way clear to do a 30-minute stint. Now, that means that he's going to probably have to throw less fuel in than the others that's in front of him when he goes in now. So he's running a pretty light load at this stage of the fight. Let's watch him as he completes this section of the lap. He will probably have to dive into the pits now. Can you go longer? Well, we're about to find out.
Well, he needs to make a pit stop quickly, does Mike Verrier. Sean McCarthy and Willem Pienaar, together with Peter Joubert and Gerald Mouget. These guys have not made pit stops yet. So let's have a look and see what the Doc does. Currently there
straight past
in that 4th position. So he's heading towards the end of the lap. So he's still got some way to go. That's that long back straight that backtracks towards the start-finish line. So he's not there at the pit entrance yet. He's Dr. Mike Verrier. I'll have a look, see, keep an eye on him there in the 8-call 24/7 BMW, sitting there in that 4th position. busy working his way through more of the tight bits.
Nice and smooth.
Nice and smooth lines there by the dock in 4th place. You'll be heading now towards the end of the lap. Under the Geico and Coca-Cola bridge he goes into that right-hander. Let's see, what does the dock do? 32 minutes almost on the clock. Is he going to dive into pit lane? Pit lane's on his left-hand side. Does he dive into the pits? Yep, yeah, yes he does.
Yeah, that's what he had to do, into the pits. He goes, look how narrow that pit lane is as he goes in there. There is a restriction of speed in the pits as well. That's what it looks like at the Circuit of the Americas as you come into that beautiful revamped pit lane. Just look at the size of that. And you're going to be seeing a lot of this in the 6 hour on Sunday. Bearingman Group sponsoring our next 6 hour race, and lots of interest in that one, which will be going from 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Let's see what it feels like sitting in the pits. You wait, you watch. Robbie Teings goes past you. You still sit, you wait, and you watch. Sean McCarthy goes past. Now you get going. Willem Pienaar's on his way, and does Willem Pienaar get another man goes past you? It must be a heart sore, and you cannot cross that solid white line. You've got to take that tight line, which makes you slower through this corner, as you can see. So just outside of the top 10, Mike Verrier goes back out on circuit, but Luke Lucchese is not going to be worried about that. He leads them out. He is pretty happy with what he is doing right now, and Johan Fourie, well, he's going to have to stretch the legs if he wants to give this young man a hard time.
Yeah, geez, nearly 10 seconds behind Luke Lucchese is Johan Fourie. So that Lamborghini of Luke Lucchese is an absolute roll. He is flying around the Circuit of the Americas. Pretty strange that Johan Fourie opted for the Audi. Most of the drivers in this one went for the Lamborghini and the BMW. As a matter of fact, very few of the drivers went for the Ferraris as well. The leading Ferrari, as a matter of fact, is Sean McCarthy, and I think he is just busy making his way out of the pits. So Luke Lucchese heads into turn number 1 with the 34 minutes done on the clock. Lucchese making his way out of turn number 1, 10 seconds ahead of Fourie. That's that man in that second position in the Monster Energy Audi R8, and he's been hassled there by Willem Botha. Botha 2.5 seconds in there behind Johan Fourie. But Gary, they are nearly 23 seconds ahead of Suisse Joubert. But Joubert, once again, deja vu as before the pit stops. He's only 1.8 seconds ahead of the McLaren of Graham Stephen.
Well, he's done a pretty decent job, although, as you say, 23 off the front end of the pack, but ahead of a very accomplished iRacing man in the orange and blue car, Graham Stephen. The two of them with the top guys, the top 5, taking a big bunch of time out of the rest of the pack, not even in the same camera shot. There they come through now, and that's Dawie Joubert with Peter van der Spey. That's a battle that's been raging on for a long time. Not much between the two of them. Peter van der Spey in that follow position there. Robbie Teings got himself ahead of that blue car coming through. That's Sean McCarthy. Willem Pienaar in the Castrol colours coming through. There you see in the background Mike Verrier, and there's Mike coming through now with Johannes van der Merwe outside now of the top 10, but with Peter Joubert right in there behind him now. So a three-way sandwich for Johannes, 2 out of the top 10, but still one of his best showings to date.
Yeah, Peter Joubert in the Lamborghini is all of a sudden coming to play, and they are challenging each other. Peter Joubert ahead of him is Johannes van der Merwe, ahead of him is Mike Verrier. So that is that three-way fight for 11. Joubert up on the inside of van der Merwe. Oh, there's contact. There is slight contact there between Joubert and van der Merwe, and van der Merwe gets muscled out the way as Peter Joubert takes that position away from him, and they are going one-on-one. So van der Merwe wants to come right back there at Peter Joubert. He's almost a second behind him as they make their way into that left-hander, and ahead of them in P11 is Dr. Mike Verrier.
Well, let's have a look who's going where off the front row of the grid. Luke Lucchese and Johan Fourie, no problem. Up one position, Willem Botha. Up three, Swayze Bear. Up four, Graham Stephen. I remember we said Graham Stephen didn't qualify according to where we would have expected him to be at all. And he's done a pretty decent job to get up to fifth position. But there's a couple of very nice battles that's happening further back. This being one of them. It is Johannes van der Merwe, Peter van der Spey, and Mike Verrier. And in fact, closing pretty quickly now onto the back of Mike Verrier and starting to put the pressure on.
Well, let's say, yes, Peter Hubert. Peter Hubert, oh, you can't move more than once.
That's
you
squeezing.
Can't move more than once, Mike. Trying to squeeze him right up against the pit wall there.
I saw a Red Bull do that on Sunday.
Going into turn number one, so did I, as a matter of fact. So Peter Hubert will say, come on, Mike, what you doing? You want to plaster me up against this wall? Let's get going, because I've got that Martini Racing BMW of Johannes van der Merwe in there behind me. So come on, Mike, let's go. So as you see them go through the winding bits, Mike Verrier, Peter Hubert, and Johannes van der Merwe, and that is 11, 12, and 13th positions you see out there on screen.
Well, there's been a change up. If I've got it correct, no, it's not. It's Johan Verrier that's still in that second position. Luke Lucchese's got connection problems because every now and again he disappears off the board. Johan Verrier pops up to the top and then he comes back on again. Let's hope that the internet connection is not a major problem for him. Johan Verrier's catching 2.4. That's the closest he's been for quite a long time.
Yeah, there was once upon a time it was more than 10 seconds. As a matter of fact, his last lap was the quickest. No, I lie. Yes, it was 2:04.8 for Lucchese and 2:04.7 for Verrier. So yes, Johan Verrier's last lap was a lot faster than what Luke Lucchese's was. So yes, he is visually closing the gap there on race leader Luke Lucchese. But Luke is behind them, Gary, and never count this man out in third position, Willem Botha.
Willem Botha doing a beautiful job, make no mistake, he's holding on. Should Johan Verrier be able to get to Luke Lucchese, neither of the two are going to give way for the other. Could open the door for Willem Botha, but Willem pushes too hard and he throws it away into the scenery. 25 seconds he's got to get back on track if he wants to get back into the game. And well, he's just got to push as hard as what he possibly can. Let's have a look a little bit further. It looks like it's Peter Hubert that is on the move there as they work their way past the start finish.
Well, let me tell you this for nothing. He is busy catching Verrier as well. Is Willem Botha. However, that's another fight, and Peter Hubert eventually goes through there. And Peter Hubert gets his nose ahead of Mike Verrier. So he moves up into the 11th position. Verrier drops down into 12th, and there's that man in 13th position, the Martini Racing BMW of Johannes van der Merwe. Is Hubert pulling away from Verrier? Visually it seems so. And van der Merwe on the other hand seems to be closing up onto the back end there of Mike Verrier.
Yep, here comes Francois Hubert. He's not where he would like to be, down in 14th position. And,
the man that's leading the championship.
Yes.
Not where he wants to be, you're right.
No, there was obviously some other incident. I remember the incident where he got it sideways and turned it right around. Recovered it pretty decently, but unfortunately that did cost him. As Johannes van der Merwe, well, I tell you what, this man always seems to be close to somebody out there on track. He is having a blast.
Yeah, van der Merwe, one of the newcomers. I think it's only maybe his third, if I'm right, his third sports and GT master race, and he's adapted very well to this form of racing, taking to it like a duck to water, and he's all over the back end of the Verrier car, Timothy Stanton. What went wrong here with Tim? That's track limits there, but there's damage on the front end of that Mercedes-Benz of Timothy Stanton. But that replay was track limits, and it looks like he's just behind Wayne Camage as they make their way down the straight.
Up there you can see the front end of that Mercedes-Benz has got a bit of road rash on it. So I don't think that amount of damage would affect the car much. Given the length of this race, I would tend to think that you'd rather live with that than anything else. course, as Charles Hubert has unfortunately been involved in an incident, and it looks like that's going to cost him a bit of time. Let's see what happened with Charles.
Swapper, I think. Yep, well, almost a swapper there by Charles Hubert. Not too serious, just caught it in time and keeps on going. Charles Hubert out there in car number 10. But yes, Van der Merwe is visually right on that back bumper of the Mike Verrier BMs, the two BMWs chasing each other there for P12 and 13. Into that left-hander they go. Just ahead of them you can see Peter Hubert in the Lamborghini busy disappearing down the road. So Mike can't worry too much now about Peter Hubert. Mike has to defend that 12th position because Van der Merwe is the man on a mission.
How's that for close? Now look at the two different racing lines here. Going in deep, turning it tight, and then getting a nice line coming out. Van der Merwe was on or should I say Mike Verrier was on the line to be able to make sure that he could close it off, and that's exactly what he did. He closed the line off very, very neatly, but there's definitely very little between the two of them.
He's going to move around on the outside. No, he doesn't. Man, he went for a move there on the dock on the outside of the left-hander, but Mike had the line for that left-hander. Made life very complicated there for Van der Merwe as Peter Hubert busy disappearing further and further down the road. So now Dr. Mike Verrier, what do? Do you go after Hubert or do you defend that position? Well, defense would be the best. You don't want to lose any positions, but that man is certainly on the mission there. Is Van der Merwe. Right, so Swiss Hubert making his way up the hill. Just ahead of Swiss Hubert you see Herman Lazarus as they head down into that left-hander. But where is Luke Lucchese? There he comes, sitting out there in P1. Yeah, there was 2.8 and then 2.4 seconds between him and Fourie. That has now grown by a second. It was 3.8, it's now 4.1, nearly 4.2 seconds. So Fourie was catching up to him, and Fourie losing a bit of ground. As a matter of fact, visually losing ground, because Willem Botha is on a move, and he's just under 1.5 seconds now behind Fourie in that second position.
Well, where we were saying if Johan Fourie can get to Luke Lucchese, they mess one another around. Willem Botha's going to be in the pound seats. It's actually Willem Botha that's applying the pressure now to the back of Johan Fourie. A little bit further back, Swiss Hubert, 29 seconds, almost half a minute. But he's doing a pretty decent job in the Oreo car. He's got a little bit of breathing space between himself and Graham Stephen, and he's got a car between, I think it's Sandro Bakari that he's got between the two of them as well. So he's reasonably safe where he is. Here comes David Jabet, 10 seconds further back. He's got a little bit of breathing space from that man, Peter van der Spey, and he's got a bit of breathing space now because the comeback kid, Robbie Teens, has started to just slow the pace a little bit and get it nice and smooth to make sure he makes it to the end. There's only 5 minutes and 10 seconds left, and I don't think Robbie's going to take any chances from there. He's got enough space between himself, Sean McCarthy. There comes the second of the Willems. That is a Willem Pienaar. That rounds out the top 10.
But Gary, 5.6 seconds behind Pienaar is Peter Hubert. Here we go, Peter Hubert. He has now dropped Van der Merwe and Verrier, who's now got his nose ahead of Verrier, is Van der Merwe. So he is now leaving them for dead, is Peter Hubert, and he is considering to catch up to Pienaar. So we'll have a look and see how that one pans out. But right now Van der Merwe did make the move there on Mike Verrier, and Van der Merwe sits there ahead of Mike Verrier. So Van der Merwe moving up into 12th position, Verrier dropping down into P11, and he is 0.3 of a second just behind Johannes Van der Merwe.
Late apex and early apex, that's the difference between the two. Either way they come out, the equidistant from what they were before that. Mike Verrier has not given up on that position. He wants it kind of bad, but there's a lot of respect between the two. There's a lot of respect between all the drivers, and in fact, Frankie, from season 1, season 2, now being in season 3, round number 7, this race, this circuit, 27 cars, 30 meters wide right around. has actually given the least amount of off tracks and accidents of everybody. But keep in mind, this is the Circuit of the Americas circuit open setup that they're going to be using on Sunday for the Bearingman Group 6 hour from 2 o'clock till 8 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. So the guys have had a lot of time to practice on this circuit, but that was with open setup. Is that maybe what's affected some of the guys? The problem for me right now is Johan Ferry is dropping down the leaderboard very, very quick.
Well, Gary, the problem that Mike Verrier's got is called Francois Hubert. He's only 1.5 seconds behind him. So we'll have a look and see. Now, all is as it was up front. Lucchese P1, Ferry P2, Buerta P3, Buerta a second behind Ferry. So first, second and third, I think as Gavin was saying earlier on, that's just the internet that messes around. Look at Johan saying, come on Herman Lazarus, get out of my way. I want to make a move here. And the move is I want to put you between me and Buerta. He's not going to get that right. He keeps right out the way. Willem Buerta says, I want to have a go. He's just under a second behind Fourie. That's at fight for second position. And disappearing down the road, 4 seconds ahead of them is race leader Luke Lucchese. But it's still very much on you for second position between Johan Fourie and Willem Buerta.
You would have expected the gap to close when they went under braking, and in fact Johan Fourie outbraked Willem Buerta on that specific. Oh, that's curbstone. That's a lot of curbstone. So Fourie is feeling the pressure.
Well, I'm looking a bit further down that leaderboard, Gary, there for P12 and 13. Remember I mentioned Francois Hubert? Look at Francois Hubert. Francois Hubert is only 4/10 of a second behind Mike Verrier as we still watch the Fourie and Buerta go one-on-one. Where are these guys? This is it. This is it. That is Francois Hubert that sits there right on the case of Mike Verrier. So Mike Verrier is now under attack from Francois Hubert. Francois Hubert is sporting the Alpha Tauri colors on his Lamborghini and is going after the 8-call 24/7 BMW of Mike Verrier, and he wants to take that 13th position away from him. Gary, but we are approaching 1 more minute to go. 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Yeah, literally, that's how long there is. And this man that's come to join us, Luke Lucchese, wow, amazing stuff. You don't arrive and drive against the Johan Ferries, Willem Buertas, the Huberts, the Stevens, the Robbie Teens, the McCarthys, the Pinas of this world, and come and clean up. Well, I tell you what, he has done exactly that. Does this mean that Luke Lucchese will be in one of the teams for Sunday? Probably
I hope so.
fine. This is his practice session. Whoever's going to be with him, they got a top-notch driver.
Well, I really hope so. We've got 30 seconds left. This probably will be the final lap for Luke Lucchese. Yes, that's going down that straight. And it's still on for second and third on the last lap here with a back marker between, or should I say ahead, of Fourie and Buerta, as the back marker keeps right out the way. But Luke Lucchese will nurse that Lamborghini towards the checkered flag. One last lunge here by Buerta on Fourie. It's not going to happen. Fourie, I believe, will take that second position as we wait to have a look at the leader making his way towards the checkered flag. He's 4.3 seconds ahead of Fourie. Is that man Luke Lucchese?
Yep, here he goes, and well, we'll have to follow him through as he does the last third of his final lap. The 50 minutes is up, and when he comes across the start-finish line, that will be it. Good night, nurse. Keep an eye on the left-hand top corner. Look at that, 0.4, 0.3 of a second between Johan Fourie and Willem Buerta. Nothing much in it. Luke Lucchese will win it. Let's have a look. Oh, he's right on the back of Johan Fourie.
But Fourie comes home second, 3/10 of a second ahead of Buerta, that finishes in that third position. And it's a lonely drive for Sway Schubert, 35 seconds behind them in the Oreo Lamborghini. Sway Schubert will finish in that fourth position. Fifth place will go to Graham Stephen, as we just keep an eye there on Sway Schubert. That's the final corner coming up. There's the pit lane on the left hand side. That is the last corner, and when he crosses the line he'll get the checkered flag. There he gets the checkered flag, finishing out there in that fourth place. So Graham Stephen and Davy Hubert having their fight for the top 5. 5th will go to Graham Stephen and 6th will go to Davy Hubert.
Yep, Peter van der Spy will be the next man coming through. Well done, Captain Pete, as he comes through the last corner, and Robbie Teings coming through in 8th position. The two of them will work their way across the line. Not that far behind.
There comes Sean McCarthy across the line. Willem Pina will be right on his case, and then right behind him is Peter Hubert. That was the man that was on the move after making that mistake. Johannes van der Merwe will round off the top dozen. He finishes there in 12th position, and behind him in 13th place will be Mike Verrier.
Up Rainier Hubert, he found himself a long way down in the pack all day long. He couldn't make it up any higher with the Audi. Well, he's the second fastest Audi out there, Johan Fourie up front. So Johan Fourie, with the standard settings, maximum downforce on that motor car, managed to make it pretty quick as Rainier Hubert comes around and finishes off his stint as well. Charles Hubert is still out on circuit as well. And, well, it looks like they've just about all completed their time out on track.
So, the winning car is a Lamborghini. The first of the Audis finishing in 2nd position. The Lone Soul McLaren finishing there in that 5th position. So, Lucchesi P1, Fourie P2, Botha P3. That is your podium.
Well, the three of them were definitely in a class of their own. A little bit further back, Swayze Hubert, 40 seconds further back, another 50 seconds back to Graham Stephen. It didn't go well for Graham Stephen today. I'm sure he'll be on a competitive run on Sunday. David Hubert outside of the top 5, and then that lovely battle that came through behind that from 7th place down.
Yeah, David Hubert P6, Peter van der Spy 7th, Robbie Ting, Sean McCarthy, Willem Pina, and Peter Hubert, followed by Johannes van der Merwe, Mike Verrier, and Francois Hubert. Man, you got to feel sorry for him. It went so well in the beginning, and then he stuck it away, and then from there on, it was survival mode for Francois Hubert.
Andre Steenkamp rounds out the top 15 with Charles Hubert, Rainier Hubert, and Timothy Stanton. And then look at that, this just carries on. Wayne Camage, Colin Plitt, Stephen McCarthy. Stephen not having a good run today. Man that ended up top 3 in season number 2. Leonardo Bakari, Gerald Maget, he had 1 or 2 offs. Herman Lazarus just couldn't find the pace out there. And then 3 riders that had problems earlier on pretty much bailed out of it. Andrew Colbert, Ian Riddle, and Sandra Bakari also falling out of that one completely. So that is the end results for this race. Frankie, looking forward to Sunday. The same track, the same drivers that you have here, plus probably another 25, 26, maybe even 27 that's going to join them. Teams of 2 or 3 drivers per vehicle out there, and it's going to be not a fixed setup, a high downforce like this one. It's open setup, so the guys with the knowledge will be out there and have been out there practicing and putting all the necessary bits and pieces in place to ensure that they've got the fastest possible setups. That wraps it up for this evening, Frankie. Sunday, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, well, remember, we'll have more Masters joining these guys, plus the under 40s, and they will be out there in GTE cars with the Masters in the GT3. So it's going to be an absolute showdown this coming weekend. Gary, and the sponsor again?
Bearingman Group, thanks to Sujin Properties, Steve and Sean McCarthy for the first 6 hour. This one being the Bearingman Group coming on board, putting up 2,000 Rand for first and 1,000 Rand for second place was the Sujin Properties 6 hour that we've already had. Same amount of money in total being put down for this one. So for the 2 different classes, first in class 2,000, second in class 1,000. The youngsters and pros being put together, and then shall we say we won't say the Outdoors, we'll say the Masters in their own group of cars as well.
If my facts are right, I think Bearingman Group is situated in Montague Gardens, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Either way, what an awesome race we had, people, and we look forward to seeing you this coming Sunday. From myself, Frankie Yennis, look after yourselves, keep safe, and bye bye, everyone.
We will be going live probably around about 1:30 Sunday afternoon. Look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye, everybody.